Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Homestand TV. I'm your host, Celine Chamarki, and I'm back with my co-host, Justin Pooney, and this time we have Rob Conway, too, on the show. So first off, how are you guys doing today?
Good, good.
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Anytime. So first things first, Boston. Let's talk the big, bad Boston Bruins. So they made a trade this weekend. They traded away Craig Smith for Dmitry, Orlov, and Garnet Hathaway from the Washington Capitals.
Perspective, from a toughness perspective, we addressed a lot of things that in one trade. He's an excellent defenseman that has produced in big moments to help the, Caps win a Stanley Cup. Him and Niskanen faced all the tough matchups, so he's very, very, he can play both sides. He can play every situation. So it just gives us a lot more opportunity to be very flexible with what we're doing with our. He brings snarl. He's someone as a coach you always notice because he's always making something happen.
Obviously, they're gearing up for the playoffs, and I'm so excited to see what they bring to the table come the time. What did you think on the trade, Justin?
First thing I thought was, oh man, Leaf fans. Leaf fans are probably not shaking in their boots because, they were kind of the talk of the time to getting Ryan O'Reilly. He just scored that hat trick. Everything was.
It's a hat trick, right, Justin?
I heard the parade was already being planned by Toronto City Hall.
Well, there's always a temporary plan.
Yeah, they're tweaking it for this year, with the traffic and stuff like that. And then Boston loaded up. And then now you know that Tampa's going to make a retaliatory move because Tampa sees, okay, Toronto made a big move, Boston made a couple moves, now it's our turn to make a move. Yeah. So it's going to be an arms race in that Atlantic Division. And right now, the Boston Bruins are they're in the lead right now.
Well, I mean, look, is Orlov or Hathaway going to make a difference between winning a Stanley Cup? You wouldn't expect that, but this team has the luxury right now of having guys like Patrice Bergeron on a contract that's worth $2.5 million. They have the opportunity to give this window that they have, which seems to be going on for 20 years now. Nonetheless, they have this window, and you have to do what you got to do. Did they maybe pay a bit too much for Orlov and Hathaway, perhaps? First-round pick, but it doesn't matter at this point. Yeah. They have a couple picks in 24, 25 as well. If they want to be able to make another deal, they have to figure that out. But, yeah, this is a team that is the beast of the East right now. And basically, if you're thinking about should we make a move, it's no question whatsoever for Boston. They've done that, and they might do more.
Exactly. Like you mentioned, it's when you're going to go into the playoffs and you're prepping for a run, you can never have enough able and healthy NHL bodies. And Orlov is not going to be asked to do a whole lot, right? Sure. He's going to be just asked to make, clean zone exits, move the puck up the ice, and that's really it. Hathaway will play on that fourth line and, give him some spark, some energy. He's one of the league leaders in hits. Yeah. So he's going to add some grit to a team that's already, fairly gritty in the Boston Bruins. Right now, they're the best team in the NHL, and they got better. And that's as simple as that. And the rest of the East, look out.
Yeah, the only question mark they have is Linus Ullmark. He's going to win the Vezina, but, I mean, we saw his numbers in Buffalo. Yeah. That's the only question mark, but you're not going to go out and get anybody else. So this team, like you say, they can add whoever they want to add. They'll still have a few question marks like everyone always does, but they have to be the favorite.
Absolutely.
It's funny you said beast of the East, and that is the Boston Bruins. But the East is stacked regardless. You have Carolina, New York, so many, New Jersey as well, too. So 3 teams. Who would you say are your top 3 teams, playoff contenders?
So you got to go. You got to go Boston. Are you talking just the East or the whole
East?
East. Okay, just the East. Okay, so we have, of course, Boston, right? Look, all these reports about Patrick Kane potentially going to the Rangers that are still alive. Yeah. If Patrick Kane somehow ends up on the New York Rangers with Vladimir Tarasenko or Artemi Panarin, a guy he has a lot of chemistry with, I would be kind of inclined to put them above the Boston Bruins in the Eastern Conference race because the goaltending, they have Igor Shesterkin in there, right? Who's a better goalie than Linus Ullmark. So, and the third one, I really like Carolina because I think Rod Brind'Amour is such a great coach and he gets the most out of his players. So those would be my top 3: Boston, Carolina. But if Patrick Kane somehow ends up in New York, they'd be my number 1 team in the East.
Going to Broadway is probably something that he wants to do. There are reports right now that the framework of that deal is basically done. They're going to need to find a third team. Minnesota has been everyone's best friend right now.
Bill Guerin is doing a great job right now, actually, taking on additional salary and getting assets for it.
Yeah.
That's how you kickstart a rebuild. I wish my GM in Vancouver, Patrick Allvin, would do that, but he doesn't seem to want to do that. But Bill Guerin's doing a great job like that.
Yeah, and it's not our money, right? No. So he's just paying out to buy picks, and that's totally fine. And if New York can find a way to make that happen, I think the deal for the most part is done because Chicago knows that that's where Patrick Kane wants to go. And so right now, if you're another GM like Bill Guerin, you got the Rangers, you can kind of be like, hey, well, you're going to need to, up the offer or else you're not going to get Kane at all. You have a lot of leverage there. We'll see if that happens. For me, the top three teams, Boston's an obvious one. Again, I have questions about Linus Ullmark. Would I take him up against Vasilevsky? Nope. No. Even Shesterkin? No. So there are questions there, but they're so deep. Their third line has Taylor Hall in it. He's an MVP. Exactly. So it is definitely that they're the favorites there. I like New York. I've liked them for a few years. They're still a young team. This was a team that sent out a memo, 4 years ago, that's saying this is going to be tough rebuild.
Exactly.
Well, here they are. They got lucky with, getting, some good picks in Kakko and Lafreniere, and then also with Jacob Trouba demanding basically to come there. But listen, that's a really good team, and they have Shesterkin. And then I think you got to go Tampa Bay. 3 straight finals. I mean, look, 2 cups. But if you think about how much hockey they've played, that might be the tough part.
Yeah, I think the thing with Tampa is they're kind of just like, how much more can they put out, right? They've played the most games out of every team in the last couple of years. Everybody's gone through injuries. Braden Point, of course, went through that big injury last year in the playoffs. Do they have enough left in the tank for another extended playoff run? I think if they match up with the Leafs, they could potentially beat the Leafs in a playoff series, even though last year they were the lesser of the 2 teams. They could, but I don't see them making another extended run in the playoffs because those guys got a lot of miles on those bodies. I don't know if they can.
And theoretically, Tampa Bay has to beat Toronto, Boston, Carolina, and Colorado to win the Stanley Cup.
That's hard.
Toronto's got to beat Tampa Bay and the same other teams. Exactly. It's tough in the East. It's just tough to get there.
And again, I think that's why the players want to see that playoff format change back to what it was, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, because the Leafs, the Bruins, and Tampa Bay are all 3 of the top 5 teams in the league, right? And the fact that they have to play each other in the first 2 rounds, it's kind of criminal if you think about it, right? So I could get. So that's why players want to see that old format return.
It would be really nice to see that old format return, and people have been vouching for that for a while now too, because they're kind of sick of the way how it is now. But a team that you guys didn't mention, Toronto, you guys don't think playoff contender? What?
You know me and my Leafs agenda.
Oh, come on. Yeah, you're a Canucks fan. You're a loser.
No, but I think the Leafs, look, I need to see it in the playoffs with them, right? Yeah. That's the thing.
I feel like that's it, because in the regular season, they're so good. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's always a flop.
And they never really, the thing with the Leafs in the regular seasons, they never really hit that adversity wall, right? To build, to overcome adversity. They hit that adversity wall in the playoffs, and they can never seem to get over that.
Yeah, and they have questions in net right now with Samsonov, and if Murray's coming back, it's really a matter of, do they have the goaltending to take them to the next level? I think if they get by Tampa Bay, you'd think they'd take off, but guess who's waiting for them?
Boston Bruins.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But a team that I want to just mention before we end up wrapping up here, the Dallas Stars. They're not playing such good hockey as of late. I mean, they're making it to overtime to shootouts, but still, they've lost 5 in a row. They lost against Chicago, who, if you bet on Chicago, the odds were plus 400. So, I mean, you cashed in big time on that one. Let's just put that out there. But, yeah, they blew a 3-0 lead to Chicago. What's going on with them?
I just think with Dallas, you kind of realize, that whole Sagan, Ben era is done. These guys are, they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in the bubble. Yeah. They had a nice run, but, look, it's time for Dallas to kind of rebuild around Jason Robertson and kind of, move on from that previous generation and come to the 23.
They got great goaltending right now. I mean, look, it's just a lull in the season. Quite frankly, it's good to have it now than have it in lose 5. Well, you're not even going to lose 5 games. You lose 4 games in a row in April, and you're going home.
Exactly.
So this is a good time to have a losing streak, especially when you're in first place in your division. Look, they have a decent team when it comes to depth. There's no real big superstar there. I mean, Jason Robertson he's getting to be there, but. We'll see with that. But the West is wide open.
Yeah, Colorado's been hit with injuries, right?
Gone.
Winnipeg's in second place in the Central right now. So the Central is kind of when you look at the West, there's a whole bunch of teams. Edmonton's playing a lot better right now. Vegas, we'll see what Vegas does. Calgary's kind of, falling off. So it's wide open in the West. It's clear that this year the East is the most dominant conference. And I think that will ride through in the playoffs as well.
So Stanley Cup going to the East.
I think so.
I think it's a wrap.
Has to be.
But then again, you got to run through that gauntlet, and then if the West, you might just be cruising right in.
That's true. If Colorado gets healthy and they start playing well, they have the elite talent to get there.
Well, this is always the most exciting time of the year, especially now with the trade deadline coming up soon and with the playoffs literally right around the corner. I can't believe the season's almost done. It's pretty wild how that happens. But it's going to be interesting to see what all happens. Thank you so much for tuning in on the Homestand TV. I'm your host, Celine Schmarkey, alongside my co-hosts Justin Pooney and Ron Conway. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys here next week.